Welcome to another episode of the Empower Man Podcast. It's your boy, Mikey G, coming to you live from the free state of Florida. And this Thursday afternoon, late morning, early afternoon, I'm going to follow suit. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee, savor the day. Today, I'm joined by the man. He puts the security in Social Security. He is the man that Elon Musk called to help him rescue the astronauts from outer space. When you ask him what DEI stands for, it stands for Dianabol, estrogen, and IGF-1.
Good one.
Like that one, right?
I do.
He is the man that doesn't call on Viagra, but Viagra calls on him. He is the patriot, the parent, the champion of the Second Amendment. He is Greg. Not a player. He just crushes a lot. Tedora. Greg, happy Thursday morning.
Happy Thursday morning. I like the D-ball thrown in there. That's nice. It's a good one.
Well, not as good as our
True
Ted's Bulletin, Washington, D.C. coffee mug. If my friends in D.C. or listeners in the DMV area go there, the Ted's Tarts are phenomenal.
Tulsi.
Yes, and we'd like to get a shout out to our favorite strong women in the world. Pam Bondi, you are the best. Take New York down and clean that place up. Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck with that.
Well, Greggy T, optimism is running as high as ever.
Always.
And always want to give a shout out to our first responders, our EMTs, our firefighters, our men and women that keep our local cities, states, and municipalities safe and sound.
Absolutely. And to all the military personnel here and overseas, we love you. Keep doing what you're doing. Be careful. And thank you for everything that you do.
So, and I echo that. So one of the things that I feel like we need to do, we're trying to make America great again. We're trying to make America healthy again. But here at Empower Man, we're going to make America smart again. So that's why this date, we are officially launching an Oprah, you better watch yourself, the Mikey G Book Club of the Month. This month we're reading The Battle of Saratoga, the turning point of America's Revolutionary War. So for all of our friends in New York that see certain highways or certain bridges named after certain people, a lot of it can be found in this book. There, I said it.
We all know you love Saratoga, so there you go.
I love Saratoga. It is a wonderful place, but I am trying to read a book a month because I feel throughout the hustle and bustle of my day and your day as well that I don't take the time to read for myself. So that is one thing that I am trying to do, and it's a little bit each night. Now, this book is 500 pages. I'm halfway there, so hopefully by the next time we do another episode, I'll be done with it, and we can start the next book.
Good luck.
That's the goal. Well, it's the first book I've read without pictures in a long time.
It takes me a while to read books. I usually read them on the plane. So
I like to read after a long day. Give me 45 minutes to an hour just so I can decompress. And again, it's just like routine. I feel like we've gotten dumber over the last 4.5 years. And especially what's really wild is if you ask somebody what a tariff is, maybe 2 out of 10 people can explain what a tariff is correctly. That's a little scary.
A lot of things are scary. And yes, I agree. I think most people are just in general dumber now than they were back in the day. Because they're allowed to be, and it's okay. And, it's just the world we live in now.
Well, it's a control thing, too. I think the government tries to control you. So therefore, you're manipulated into believing that you don't know when you really have a brain. You really have an opportunity to voice how you feel, even though, about a year ago, you couldn't really voice what you feel because there was 2 years ago, you would get backlash, getting canceled, which was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
that's ridiculous.
But I think we have a pretty good now, like, breath of fresh air here. So hopefully people's can think for themselves and make America smart again. And we have to. Like Trump said, we rank first in price per pupil, but yet 40th in the world in like education. It's like crazy.
They don't pay teachers enough. They don't pay admins enough.
I agree with
They
that.
don't pay the people that should be making the money. They don't pay. So you're
with
never
that.
going to get the quality you need by doing that. That's a bad business model. There's one-offs. There's some great teachers and counselors and principals out there, but it's the luck of the draw. It's a numbers game. You just got to be lucky to have one because no one wants to sign up for that because there's no money in it.
Well,
And people do it out of passion, which is obviously great, but you're not going to get the masses, and 90% of a school have awesome teachers because just the odds aren't there. The numbers aren't there.
well, look at you growing up. I'm sure you had a few teachers. I know I had some great teachers growing up, and this
Awesome.
wasn't that long ago, and they helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that I use to this day, I remember from back in the day, and it's like, where
course.
did we go wrong with our education? Because I had a great education. I had a great foundation. Even when I went to community college, and nothing wrong with community college, but when I started there, it took me a while to get out of community college because I didn't want to be there. But, when I was able to, stay focused, I mean, I learned a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
And even when I went to St. John's, it was just, I saw the disparity between the undergraduate and the graduate education because professors, I'm calling out, I'm this or that. You saw that I didn't appreciate. But if we look at like kindergarten or pre-K through high school, I had some awesome teachers, man.
Same here. Same. Very lucky. Very lucky.
Very lucky. In fact, I had a social studies teacher that was a cross-dresser. He would moonlight as a cross-dresser outside of school. But I'll tell you what, that guy could teach his rear end off. And he was a fantastic teacher. I ended up getting an A in his class. He was a great, great teacher. And, now, I think the way society looks at things is so convoluted. It's just.
Yeah.
But that kind of leads into the topic for today. We talked about this earlier on, but I feel like something we should really revisit: tackling depression. I mean, really tackling depression. I feel very optimistic now that RFK Jr. is HHS, that there's a lot of things are gonna maybe that were taboo or were like voodoo might become more integrated. I think I'm not a big fan of antipsychotics. I'm just not. I think for the right case, probably people use them, but I think people become dependent upon them. And therefore, it negates the other part of that. And that means doing the work. It's like, okay, I'm going to take Zoloft and I'm going to be cured. No, I think you take the medicine, but you also got to put the work in. So, Greg, opening thoughts on this topic and what you feel we've done right in tackling this issue and what you feel improvements that you'd like to see in tackling this issue.
I'm going to start off by saying this. I'm not a physician. I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm not saying anything of that sort. So I'm sure people will come after me for that. I don't care. I'm not a physician. I'm not diagnosing you, the listener. However, I agree with you. I think medications, no matter what they are, if it's clinically diagnosed by an ethical and a very good doctor, whatever, psychiatrist, some people need it. Some people actually need it, and it's meant for that, and it could work for them. My gray area with this is the overnight psychiatrist or whatever that is popular and just like a pill mill just pops it out to people that don't necessarily need it or have it. Should almost be a last resort, in my opinion. And I get a lot of heat for this from certain people, but like you said, you got to put the work in, right? Why don't you try everything and anything possible? Then once you've exhausted all that, and you're diagnosed by a real professional, have at it, because it probably that'll work. And you continue to do the work, and you should hopefully be okay and get the results that you're looking for. Everyone's looking for different things. My problem, like I said, is that gray area. And yes, people become dependent. They're also giving it to kids too early, in my opinion. Instead of helping them see other options or paths, chuck a pill at them. Here in the Northeast, it's like a common thing that these moms just put their kids on something because they don't want to parent, or they have so much energy. Last time I checked, kids are supposed to have energy. You just don't want to parent. That's a huge difference. But the parents are medicated, so they're like, let me just medicate little Johnny over here or Jill, and then everyone's at like a lower base, so it makes parenting easier. The kid, I don't know. I personally think you're messing your kid up, and you're not giving him a chance right out of the gate. That's my opinion. A lot of people hate on me for that. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion as well. But I think someone should try to exhaust all options. Do your research. Find a really good doctor, really good one that isn't just a pill pusher, because a lot of them get paid to do it. A lot of people don't want to talk about that. They do. And I think as a last resort, and the other thing is, a lot of these, like you said, the antipsychotics or whatever, they take a while to dial in. So it's a process. It could be 6 months, 8 months, 9, it could be a year. So people are also quick to take, but then quick to stop, try another one, and not give it enough time. It's like supplements. You take certain supplements, it takes a while to kick in. It's not overnight. So it's the same type of thing. There's no instant fix. People, let me take a pill and that's it. And when it comes to certain medications, they take a while to process in the body and get right. You're dealing with your brain, your neurons and all that stuff. It takes a while to tweak to get it right. And I just think people combine too many things, and they try too many things. And also the problem is people self-diagnose. They go on WebMD, Google, and they're like, oh, I must have this. And they go to a professional and here, take this. And they're out the door instead of trying to get to the root of the problem. And I think then that will lead to what you said, dependency on something you might not need. Is it needed for certain people? Yes, I'm going to say it again. I'm not saying it's certain people do need that, but not everybody. Do the work.
I agree. A couple things, the biggest thing that you said was about the parenting, and that's really sad.
It's a whole subcategory of this.
That's very sad. If that's the case,
Yeah,
where people put their kids on meds,
it must be the kid. It must be them. It's not me. It's not mom and dad or whoever. It's got to be the kid. Why does it have to be the kid? Because it's all optics, man. They can't stomach that they might not be doing a good job, or maybe they could do better in certain areas. Maybe they're not putting the time in, whatever. It's got to be the kid, right? Not necessarily.
Right.
And just because you might need a medication doesn't mean your kid needs it too. You got to break the chain somewhere. They might not need it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and you're spot on. Just as in the strength and conditioning world, we have something called Fitt's Law, which illustrates tissues model along the lines of stress. Well, children are going to model their behaviors along the lines that they're exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to think that taking pills is normal.
Yep,
it's a normal thing. My family, I use for example, through the generations, it's pills, 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 pills. There's a pill for everything. Blood pressure, cholesterol, this and that. And you made a reference earlier. These doctors, they get kickbacks for the medications that
it's a huge business.
Set out. I have a doctor here in Delray, love him to death. This guy, if I told him I had an ingrown nose hair, he'd give me something for it. I'm like, instead of just ripping the thing out.
I don't blame him totally, because the majority of people want that immediate thing. They just want to take that pill and it'll go away. So he is providing a service that's needed. I don't think the need is right. I agree.
Right. But I think hopefully, and you mentioned it too, well, let me go back to what you also mentioned too, instant gratification. People want the fix. It's got to be, I need this now to work now. They don't have the patience to let things, cultivate, let things, work inside of your body to get that end result. It's instant gratification. I need it now. I need it
That's
now.
society nowadays. Instant. Same with social media. Same with everything. Instant. And it's funny. A lot of the population that doesn't like to label things. I don't want to label this. I don't want to label that. Man, they're quick to label this though. To get that pill, like, oh, I must have this, and everything's a diagnosis now. There's 2 clouds in the sky, it's called this, or it's rainy today, it's called that. Like, there's like literally something for everything. Like, I tripped and fell. Oh, you must have like trip syndrome. And let's talk about, like, I thought you guys didn't like labels. You're literally labeling everything. Everything.
I have Trump derangement syndrome. There's no pill for
I
that.
just have society derangement syndrome because I just think they're looking. It's funny. They're just, in my opinion, they're being a hypocrite. You don't like labels, but you're literally labeling everything. How does that work?
Of course.
I don't know.
A term years ago.
This is a very touchy topic. We're going to get a lot of heat for this. Not that that's anything new. I'm just saying, like, people are very passionate about this, and I respect that. But we're just having a discussion. That's all this is.
Yeah.
No judging. None of that. I'm not judging. I'm just saying my opinion. I'm answering your questions, and I'm telling people what I think. I'd love to have a debate with somebody or hear their side of the story, but until somebody steps up and does it, then okay.
Well, I think there's a term that was thrown around years ago. I remember this was a big thing called emotional intelligence. That was the big thing. It's kind of like constitutional crisis, right? It's emotional. Everyone has emotional intelligence, or what's your EQ, or what is this? And my friend Patrick taught me this very early on. He's like, to really understand the other person, you kind of have to like step out of yourself and kind of like see it from their eyes.
Absolutely.
I think it's important to validate your feelings. Okay. It's okay to feel down, feel depressed, feel angry.
Yep.
But you can't live there. You can't stay in
Totally
that
agree.
space.
Yes, agreed.
I can get down, I can get angry, I can get depressed, I can get frustrated, but you can't live there. You got to validate your feelings. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay. Right? Something happens. It's okay to be depressed, but you can't stay there. Validate it, absorb it, in my opinion. Validate it, absorb it, but then make a plan to move forward. I saw a clip on social media, and Trump actually spoke about depression. He goes, you want to cure depression? He goes, work your ass off. That'll cure depression because you won't have time to think about anything else. And I've been thinking about that for the last months. I've seen it. And you know what? I said, this guy is spot on. Because if you can, I feel if you can involve yourself in something that allows you an end result, like, all right, you want to buy a house, or you want to buy a car, or you want to get out of your situation, then you're going to work your ass off, hopefully, to get out of that situation, whether it's debt, whether it's, pain, I don't know, whatever your situation may be. But that stuck with me. And I wish I could find that clip because that stuck out to me 100%. It's not so easy to say, oh, Greg, you're depressed. Go work your ass off. You'll feel better. You got to have a goal and work towards something. Work your ass off towards that goal.
But let me ask you this. Yeah. I'll play devil's advocate on this because I agree with you to a point. But what about, is the depression still going to be there, though, when they hit their goal? And is work just masking and shielding what's actually going on behind the scenes? You can work your ass off and, things are going to come home to roost one day. So you can't work till you're dead. You can. But when you take a break, you've ignored that depression so long just by working, it could boil over.
Could.
That's what I'm saying. So I agree to a point, but there are people that can't get out of that just by working because it's so big. And the working is a great thing because it keeps them on track. But there is an end of the work day. There is time where you're going to the bathroom, taking a shower, eating, going to bed, and it just goes right there. So it's still there. Maybe they worked their ass off and they got the dream home and all the toys and the cars and this and that. Depression could still be there.
Sure.
But they've masked it so long, maybe it's been growing bigger and bigger, and then it could be catastrophic. I don't know. I'm just
I
bringing that
agree with
point
you.
up.
I agree with you. And again, and to be fair, that's the only part of the clip that I saw. But I'll also say too, I think if you work your ass off, I think when you have that sense of achievement and accomplishment, I think that might help satisfy some of the things that people feel inside, because a lot of people that are depressed feel defeated.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Maybe your relationship doesn't work. Maybe, I don't know, whatever it might be. But,
Yeah.
like when you spend, I know with me, when I worked for a company, I spent the majority, 85% of my life was there. And I would meet people that I dated my job. Right. So it's like if you have two people working towards the same goal, or if you're in the same environment, or you're working your butt off, and let's just say you meet one of your colleagues that you grow close to that happens to be a girl or a guy, whatever it might be, and something evolves out of that that's more intimate, then hey, I was able to cultivate the relationship I want because I put the work in towards achieving my goal, and now I have a sense of accomplishment, achievement. I don't know. That's
I
just
mean, no, I agree. I mean, that's just more like positive affirmations and positive movement. I think the more positive you do things can help with that. Definitely.
I agree.
Definitely.
I agree.
Mhm.
And because we talked about this offline the other day, I think when you're alone, and again, we've mentioned this in the past, there's an enemy, there's a spiritual warfare, I believe, that goes on when you're alone.
I agree.
You know,
Always there.
it's always
Always
there.
there.
It never goes away. Believe me, like I battle it, between thoughts,
Every day.
between things. There's
Every day.
always something that creeps in your mind, good, bad, evil, good,
Every day.
So it's how you deal with that. And it's not so, okay, let me take a pill so I can quiet the voices in my head. Well, guess what? The voice is still going to be there. You're just going to be more tired because now you put a Band-Aid over the cut. I feel, but antipsychotics do. I don't feel it gets to the real root of the problem. I feel when you look at brain chemistry and you look at your neurotransmitters, because we have them all, some people like to eat when they're happy. Some people eat when they're sad. But if there's the brain gut connection, it's your 9th and 10th
What's
cranial.
my excuse? I just like to eat all the time.
You eat because you're happy.
Oh, yeah.
You exude happiness.
Yes. Tricolor cookies exude happiness.
And don't forget your sausage, egg, and cheese is on a bagel.
Of course. Of course.
Those are the days.
Yes, they were.
And eating a package of double stuffed Oreo cookies on my couch
Never
25
happened.
years ago.
I don't
Allegedly.
remember that. I don't recall.
Allegedly.
I don't recall.
But, to go back to spiritual warfare, one thing that people need to realize, it's like we weren't meant to have like mundane life. We weren't. We saw patterns of our parents getting up, going to work, going home, stay at your job 30 years, get your Rolex watch or get a Timex watch or whatever. Hey, thanks for your service. Live off your retirement and die.
Yeah.
For the time, that's what you're supposed to do. Here we are in 2025. The world is changing. We're trying to get back to some type of level of normalcy where, we talked about the American dream. Maybe it can come back a little bit. Hopefully it can come back. But we weren't meant to live boring lives or mundane lives. We weren't. I know your life hasn't been boring. Mine sure as heck hasn't been boring. But if we go back to, again, I'll reference the Bible, there's a, like we were meant to have a hope in a future. Everyone from your children who are 5 and 3 now. Okay, so they're not meant to have a boring life. They're meant to have a
Agreed.
hope in a future. They're not, there are plans for all of us. Everyone in our life, right? We're exactly where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be right here at 11:30 on Thursday, February 20th.
As weird as that may seem to some people, I agree with you 100%. Even if you're in a situation that sucks, you're meant to be there.
Right. Like you're in Stanford, I'm in Delray, and I'm meant to be here. Don't ask
And
me
I
how the
used to
heck
be
I got
there.
here. I know. I vaguely remember.
So crazy. Yeah.
But if people need to realize that, like, no matter how bad your situation is, and listen, we've all been there, but we weren't meant to live in that situation forever. Unfortunately, I've had family members and friends that stayed in that now some 30, 35 years. And it's like a life sentence. It's like a death sentence. Like depression is not a death sentence. Depression is not even an arrest. Depression is like getting jumped by 3 or 4 people. And it's like using your Bruce Lee powers to fight off these attacks that come at you, but it's how you fight those battles that's going to really dictate how you win the war.
And I think a little taste of depression is kind of good for somebody because it will help you, what you always say, take stock of what's actually good and what you're grateful for. And I also think it reminds you to keep going, stay positive, and do all that. I was watching Sean Ryan the other day, and he had this former special ops guy. His name's Travis Haley, and he had some great quotes. He's like Force Recon, and like he later contracted with, he was a Blackwater sniper, so he contracted all over Africa and all these crazy places. And he's like, there's like two voices inside us. There's pain, and then there's suffering. And he explained, he's like, the voice of pain is quiet and stoic. Like, pain is actually okay. People are afraid of pain, but pain is all right. And it's hard to understand. Suffering is optional, so people choose, in my opinion, to suffer. And you can choose the pain or you can choose to suffer. Pain is temporary, hopefully, and usually is, and you can overcome that. And but people, it'll hurt today, but it'll be okay tomorrow. But a lot of people choose to shy away from the pain. They will choose suffering, and that's a whole different thing. So you're creating a negative story by suffering. When you accept suffering, you're just accepting that. Oh, nothing goes my way. She'll never say yes. Or I can't go out with somebody like that. Or I'm never going to get this job. Why should I even interview? Man, you're just choosing to suffer. And he said that, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And this guy's been in it. And he's made mistakes or whatever, and he owns it, which I respect. But I thought that was a good breakdown between pain and suffering, because pain is actually good. So I agree with him with that. If anybody has time, you should go watch that. It was a good one. It was very heavy, but it was good.
And sometimes people avoid that. Of
course.
People avoid pain and go right to the suffering. That's
Absolutely.
All they know.
And that's exactly what he said. It's exactly what he said. Yep. They'll avoid the temporary pain. Like, I don't want to do this cold plunge today. But maybe that cold plunge will lead to your body being less inflamed. And in time, you'll feel a little better. It's definitely good to overcome that mindset. But they choose to continue all those sufferings by not going in because they're afraid of that pain. Right. And you just get used to it, and it's fine. And you actually look forward to it. And it's actually not that bad. And it's always better to do it with a friend because it's funny to laugh at each other when you cold plunge. So
I'll be watching on Zoom. So when you go in that cold plunge,
you're going in, man. You're going in.
I'll do cryo. Cryo therapy. I like cold plunge.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
But you're right, and I'll circle back. I love that. That's my favorite Democratic term. Circle back. To about asking a girl out. Because how often have we? I know I'm guilty of this. You label a girl. Oh, I can't afford her. She's got a. It probably talks. I need a Centurion card to ask this girl out. And you're already labeling people. But the thing is, when you live in freedom, you don't care. So, like, if you get rejected, it's not a big deal. Because you know what? That no one's going to probably have the courage to ask that girl out. And she'll be thinking about you all day. Because most of these guys will use, some of these guys, not most, let me rephrase that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Some guys will use their assets, let's say, to impress a girl.
Same way as a girl uses her assets to impress a guy, which is usually mostly physical only. Yeah, I agree with you with that. But why even start out the beginning of that with, I can't afford her? I've never understood that. I've never thought like that. I don't care about that. Someone shouldn't start out of the gate like that. I agree with, if you get rejected, who cares? Definitely. But don't even put that label on anybody. Oh, I can't afford her. She probably can't afford you emotionally or spiritually. So keep it moving. And if you, in my opinion, even if you have that thought of her in your head, don't ask her out. You're thinking that for a reason. That's my opinion. I don't know. I know I'm different, but I don't like that. I don't respect any of that stuff.
Well, I think, yeah, I think if most people think they can't afford her, they're probably going to avoid talking to her, or, that's just, again, my opinion. So people tend to like veer away, but we don't know if that girl is insecure. We don't know if she's lonely. We don't know what kind of battle she's going through. Again, it's all about optics, and you mentioned that term earlier. It's the optics of like, oh, look at me, like I'm like the it girl.
Yeah.
I'm in. I go here, there, everywhere. I know this guy, that guy, that. But we don't know deep down inside that could all be a mask for pain,
Usually is.
insecurity, suffering.
Usually
So
is.
right. So therefore, for there are men out there that are struggling in that department, like who cares if you get rejected? I mean, the last I checked, they're still making babies. The last I checked, there's still what? How many billions of people on this planet?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about perspective, and it's all about how you perceive yourself and how you perceive the world.
Yeah.
If you've been conditioned to think that, oh, well, she lives in Boca, she must be one type of girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all know how much you love Boca.
Hey, listen, I love Boca.
Yeah,
I
I know
lived
you
there a
love.
long time, and I've met
I know you
some
love Boca.
incredible people there, and I know a lot of good girls that came out of there, women. Not hating, but I mean, obviously, surface value. There's a lot of that fake stuff there.
Boca's fake vibes. Go back to Empower Man Instagram to find that clip because it's a classic.
Yeah, I got a lot of heat for that one, but that's okay.
But yeah,
I still love Boca. Still love it.
I love. I think Boca's great,
Yeah, me too.
but I like Delray and Boynton better. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think again, it's one of those things where, if you, like you said, if you have that thought in your mind, you're already defeated before you even ask her out. We don't know what that person's going through. They don't know what we're going through. So again, depression is a depression doesn't exist. It's not walking through the door. It's not like depression's going to come knocking on the door saying, "Hey, Mike, you got a phone call." Right. So, Greg, tell me more or give me more perspective on your thoughts on dealing with depression, like actually getting in there and kind of like cutting it out like a cancer. How would you help someone who is been suffering from depression? Maybe it's been, 6 months, a year. Maybe you got a buddy who's just can't see past his own stuff because sometimes, 4 eyes are better than two.
Yeah.
How would you help, excuse me, how would you help cut that cancer out of someone?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can only do my best. Like I said, I'm not a physician or I'm not, licensed or anything like that. But I would just start by talking to him. Since you said a friend, a buddy,
Friend. Yeah,
I would talk to him or her first and see where their head's at. And I can't diagnose anybody. I don't know. That's not my field of expertise. But if they're like, hey, maybe they say I'm a little depressed or whatever, you can tell when somebody's a little down. You can start talking to them and seeing to a degree, what level of downness they're at. How low are they? Are they just like having a bad day or a bad month? I mean, you can see that probably a lot clearer than they've had years of just shit and there's something wrong and their actions aren't their normal self and something's off with them. And maybe then they should see somebody or at least research somebody that's good to go talk to them. Because everyone's like, oh, you're so anti this. I'm not anti any of that. But I firmly believe to try everything else as best you can first and then go that route. That's just, I feel strongly about that. Because I do think the mind can overcome most things, not everything. And I have to preface that, like I said earlier, some people need this stuff. I'm not saying that. But some people don't. And I think you should at least take your swings in the batter's box first to see. And if you keep trying and it's not going anywhere, 100%, go see somebody. Absolutely. If you've exhausted everything, I would try to talk to them first and maybe what are they doing? What are they not doing? Are they just sitting in their shit, like you said earlier? Do you have any hobbies? Do you have any friends that you can openly talk to without being judged or whatever else people do? Like real friends. That's another thing. A lot of people don't have a lot of real friends They have acquaintances that they label friends, and they're all just going to tell you what you want to hear. They don't step into that zone of, I'm going to keep it real with you. You're being an idiot right now, or you're making bad choices right now. That's a real friend, because they know you're going to be friends no matter what, but I'm going to tell you how it is. And I would expect the same from them too. That's a real friendship. Do they have those people around? I don't know. You know, it's you have to diffuse the bomb as best you can to your abilities, and then try to help them and keep them on a path. And if they're still veering off, then maybe go with them, or drive them to, or help them look up somebody that's good to talk to. Just be there for them.
Yeah. Sometimes silence is the best type of response. Just listening to
Sometimes,
someone.
yeah, people are suffering, but knowing that they're just next to you could be enough. They're just
Right.
in the car with you. That could be enough.
Yep.
No words, no stories, no trying to make them laugh or divert their. You're just with them. You're present. That could be enough for them.
Well, it's one thing that we haven't really touched on, and we'll touch on now as we get closer to the end here, is death. Right, death is an extraordinary circumstance where,
Mhm.
again, feeling the loss of a loved one, even a pet, man,
Mhm.
like like that could sting worse than actual human being. And I just
Mhm.
looked up real quick the seven stages of grief. Right, shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, 5, testing, and acceptance. And it's not to negate that. That's something that can't be negated. And
Mhm.
it's okay to, I think everyone that's dealing with something should go through that, because it'll wash away all the stuff that you've got going on. So it's not to say, okay, I lose someone. Maybe, I mean, we've all been there. And, time heals most wounds. I don't think it will completely, you know, replace that
Yeah.
person or event,
Yeah.
but it does help you to move forward in certain
Mhm.
ways without, fully getting over that situation. But I
Yeah.
think allowing yourself to experience shock, denial, anger, bargaining, being depressed, testing, and acceptance is a good thing. But like I said earlier, you just can't live there. So, again, Greg, with death, we've all experienced things like that. Yeah. How do you help someone during that grieving process? What do you do? Like, how can you help someone not get caught in that trap of depression after? I mean, we've had friends. I've had friends that would resort to some type of instant gratification, whether it's food, whether it's booze, whether it's drugs.
Mhm.
How do you help someone in that situation? How would you coach someone in that situation?
Like I said earlier, it applies to this too. You just got to be there for them. Whatever that looks like. They might need you to clean their house. They might need you to do something, or have food. I don't know. Just be there for them. Make sure they don't call their drug dealer and get drugs. Make sure they don't go to the local bar. All those things. And sometimes maybe they do need to blow off some steam and go somewhere safe where you're not going to get arrested, to do what you got to do, and then bring them back. Because I agree with that too. Some people do need to drink and get it out of their system or do whatever. I'm not judging. I don't care. And so that's fine, but just make sure it's in a semi-controlled environment where you can do it safely and no one's around and you're fine. And your boys are there. Like that's cool. I'm okay with that. I've
Yeah.
done that. I've helped people with that. It's fine. You just got to be there for them.
Yeah.
And everyone handles death differently.
Yeah.
And like you said, listen, little kids' books, they're like, the emotions books.
Yeah.
Anger is in there. Anger is not a bad thing. Like going back to what you said earlier, the emotions are just emotions. Anger just gets a bad rap as you get older. So why am I teaching my little kids anger is an emotion, but don't be angry when you're older? Like, but you were taught that's just another emotion. Like you said, it's okay. Acknowledge it. Figure out why you're angry and either get out of it, don't do it again, or see the signs and avoid it. That's all. So everyone handles death differently. Some people get super sad, which could lead to a temporary depression, maybe, which could lead to a bigger problem. And hopefully they don't go too far, because you can tote the line if you go too far and there's a problem. Some people get angry. Some people work themselves to death or get so busy, or everyone's different. You got to figure out what their flavor is and just be there and go with them for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, life happens to everybody, but I believe the statistic is it's how you. I don't know what the correct term is. If you know it, please step in. It's all about how you respond to situations. It's not about what happens to you. It's your response to that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And anger is a response, but we also respond to anger. I know I have as I've gotten older. Just even in the last 6 months, I think some of the remnants that I had, because it's always in there. And I
Of
think
course.
as you keep working on yourself, it gets more suppressed, more suppressed, more suppressed, more suppressed. And because you're conditioning and practicing, how to deal with it. So
I don't
I'll
think
feel
it's
angry.
suppressed. I'm going to change that word. It's not suppressed. I think it's being diluted in a good way. It's
Fair.
not as potent as it was. So maybe it was like burning at like a 90. But as you get older, you're working on yourself. Maybe it's only burning at like a 70 or a 60. So I don't think you're suppressing it. I just think you're diluting it in a good way and keeping it under wraps.
Yeah, dealing with it differently.
It's still there,
angry,
but it's not as forceful.
Exactly. You get angry. It's like turning the temperature up and then turning it back down. It's like, okay, I responded to the heat. Now I'm going to cool it down, because I realize now with the weapons I have, foolish responses get foolish answers, right? Play stupid games with stupid prizes.
Fuck around, find out.
You could do that too. But
but that's not good.
It's not good.
You don't want to get to that level.
No. And for me, it's pretty easy, but
me too.
No. Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going through the process and working on yourself and kind of like, cleaning stuff out. It's cleaning stuff out of your closet. It's like, all right, well, the anger will always be there. It's just a matter of how you deal with situations. So
and
it's
control
like,
it.
right. It's like, I can get angry. It's like I spilled coffee, right, on my recliner in my office. And, of course I went on a little bit of an anger tangent, and then I just stopped. I talked to myself because I was so mad that I spilled coffee on my recliner.
I can hear you from here.
Right. And then I just stopped. I actually laughed at myself.
Yeah, you got to laugh. You got to laugh.
I laughed.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at my cat, who looked back at me like to say, "You idiot."
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started laughing, and I said, "It's okay." I just did a little water. I blotted it out.
Worse.
And now, right, you can.
If that's a worst thing, is that the worst part of your day? I think your day's pretty good.
Exactly. And you got to keep reminding yourself that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like before we went on.
But spilling coffee can set somebody off a horrible path that is not in control of their stuff. You're in control now, but I'm saying before you had that control, it can lead to now you're going to go out of your house. Maybe you have to go food shopping. And now you're in that mindset. Somebody cuts you off. Somebody says something to you, and then it's on. And all for what? You spilled something? Who cares?
Right. Exactly. And when people cut you off, like I cut somebody off the other day, but purely accidental. And this woman was
in your new car.
Yeah. And this woman was screaming at me, and I just waved at her, and that got her more angry.
Of course.
I was like, you know what? Like, what am I gonna do? Right? What's the point of going back and forth with somebody? It's not gonna. It's like, Greg, I'm gonna prove to you I can put my head through this wall. I'm gonna bang my head 1,000 times, and I'm not gonna even make a dent.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, let it go. Like,
and we've all done it.
Oh God! Up until a year ago, little things would set me off, and I'm still going to get set off. It's just a matter of how I deal with it. I'm not going to engage with people if I can't get the answer that I'm looking for. Then I'm not going to engage, because I already know what your response is going to be. So you can't be rational with irrational people. I've been saying this for how many years we've been doing this podcast.
Yeah.
So if I beg to you, hey, I did this, and this, but you're dead set on saying, no, you did it this way. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to have to move forward with whatever I'm looking to, because you're not going to see or even take into consideration what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So,
and depression's a real thing.
It is.
And it's a real problem. And I think more and more people now are depressed than they were, historically speaking, in the United
Yes.
States. But I also think we also know more about it now. So we can, it wasn't taboo back in the day, but it was way less than it is now. All these things, these, the medications and the labeling, the diagnosis, there was way less. So in a good way, we actually know now what that person or why they were doing that, or they felt that way. Now we can, okay, they were this way. They were depressed. So I think in one hand it's good because now we can, oh, that's why. Makes sense to us. It's almost like a closure type of thing. Why were they like that? Like, oh, they were just depressed because whatever. And that's
Right.
fine. But I also think the over labeling has caused more depression that I think might not be a level 10. Maybe it's a 4. But now, since it's under the label depression, they're going to put them right at a 10. And I
Right.
think the cycle is going to get bigger and bigger, and the self diagnosis, and oh, I'm on this too. I'm on that. I put my kid on this. Oh, let's put him. And it's like a whirlwind. Some people need it. Last time I'm going to say it, but some people don't. But it's also not their fault, those people that don't know that they might not need it, because maybe no one's in their corner saying, hey, try all these things first. Try other things first. That's a last resort. So I don't even blame them fully because they might not have access or know people or know certain things to make it a last resort. Just my opinion.
And I agree with you 100%.
And
Yeah.
sorry,
No, you're good.
before I forget this,
You're good.
because I'm forgetting things in my
You're
age.
good. You're good.
If you are diagnosed and you, for depression, since we're talking about it,
Right.
and you are prescribed something, it's not a death sentence. It doesn't have to be permanent. Maybe you're on it. And now listen, some people need to be on it permanently, but not everybody. Everybody's body's different. Maybe it can help you, whether it's a year, 2 years, whatever, get over and work on yourself if you're putting the time in. And maybe you try to phase off of it because usually you can't cold turkey certain things. And maybe you're okay enough now mentally where you don't need it. I know people that have stopped it and don't need it. So it can be done. And so don't look at it as like, oh my God, I'm diagnosed with it. Okay. Like you said, it's not a death sentence. Use what you need in the meantime, and then maybe get off it.
I agree with you.
Some people will need it forever. I'm not saying that. That's fine. But not everybody. And so don't label yourself like I'm doomed. You're not doomed.
Right. And I agree with you. And it's having someone in your corner that some people may not have.
It's huge. No, they don't.
It's right. At least people
Someone with
that
like
actually
common
care.
sense. And
Right.
I'm not like, listen, I'm not a physician. I've said it a million times, or whatever, clinical psychologist, psychiatrist, but just sometimes just good friends that can give you an alternative view. Maybe that's all you need sometimes because you can only see one thing, but your friend comes at you, oh, maybe I see it this way. And then you try looking at it that way and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that perspective. And how could you? Because you're not them, they're not you. They don't see your perspective. You didn't see theirs, but now you're sharing and you're like, let me try that. Maybe it'll work. Be optimistic. Try it. What's the worst that could happen? Nothing changes. At least you tried it.
Right.
So you have nothing to lose.
And again, if you have someone in your corner that's supportive versus someone in your corner that's negative, that makes a big difference in how you're going to be conditioned to react to things and to do things.
Mhm.
Oh, well, you know what? Life's hopeless. I'm just going to take this pill. Oh, God, I'm never going to get over this. It's like doom and gloom.
You're choosing, like I said, you're choosing
Right.
that now. And you're already setting yourself up that path you're putting horrible affirmations out there now. So what do you think is going to happen? That.
And some
So
people just aren't aware. I think, especially when it comes to our generation, like our parents' generation, a lot of things were swept under the rug. Remember
100%.
being, coming from a divorced family was, oh my God, like their parent.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, and because I went through this, right? Oh my God, he comes from a divorced family. But meanwhile, those that were judging, 80% of those people that I knew growing up, the parents, the husband cheated on the wife, and it didn't come out till later on. And then they were calling my mother. How did you deal with this? And of course, my mother's a saint. So, I mean, she's VIP heaven. She's a saint. She took the time, listened to them, and helped them through. I mean, so, back in the day, being depression was like something on the rug. Like, oh, don't talk to, Craig, he's depressed.
Yeah.
So they weren't as open with their feelings as we've evolved over the years. And again, I think since the turn of the century, since like probably 2000, I think it was more taboo to explore alternative methods or methods that may have been used, let's just say, in different countries or different parts of the world, coming to the States. Say, hey, you know what? You could use the medication, but you also start journaling, start exercising, start eating right, garbage in, garbage out, start sleeping better, stay hydrated, go to different places to find friends, go switch it up. Even if you're going through a breakup, just switch the arrangement of your house around. It can make a big difference on how you get over things. I mean, we've all been there. I've done that. I've also thrown out a lot of things and I get new stuff. So, I mean, anything you can do to get over it. But I want to end my part of this, Craig, and then I'm going to have you put the bow on the package here. Going back to the Bible, and I'm just going to read this real quick, and I'm going to end it here. Jeremiah 29:11 states, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." Now, those that are, have some bit of religious background can relate to it. Those that don't, it might sound a little weird, but the overarching theme is you're meant to have hope and a future. No matter how bleak your situation is, keep that in mind. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to live in it, but also as you're living in it, try to find ways to work out of it so you can step into the life that you're meant to live. I'm done.
I could dig it. I'm going to end on this note. And it has to do with picking the right partner. So if you're, I don't know, late teens, early 20s, even 30s, let's just say you're toting the line with acknowledging you might be depressed. You might not be at a level 10, but maybe you're figuring out, like, listen, I'm a little down for some reason or something's off with me. If you're starting to date or if you're going into a serious relationship or a marriage or whatever, make sure you have the right partner. Because I think it's going to be crucial down the road, because you need somebody that'll be in the trenches with you, as ugly as it may get. That's not going to piece you out or add to your depression or add other labels to your depression, anxiety. All these things now are going to be contributing factors and layers. Now you're not fighting just depression. Now you're anxious. Now you're angry. Now you're in a relationship you don't want to be in. And now you're like, oh, it's too late to get out. Now it's a fucking horrible recipe. So I'm going to leave with this. Make sure if you're dating somebody and you think you want to be with them long term, put yourself in that situation. Are they going to be there with me in the dirtiest of the moments where it's just ugly? There's nothing sexy about me, and it's bad. Because if you even have to think about it long, the answer is probably no. If the answer is no, I'm sorry, piece them out. Get out of it, because you're going to be 10 years down the road, married with kids or whatever, and miserable. When maybe you could have got out of it if you either were alone a little bit longer, worked on yourself, or had the right partner that was in there with you, doing the work with you and helping you through the path and out the other end. So it's crucial to pick the right partner. And we've spoken about this in previous episodes. These are to the people that just brush those red flags away. Don't do it, because they always are going to be red flags in the future. They will reappear. Unless it's worked on and put to bed, it's still there. And I think it's a horrible dynamic if you're in that now with somebody that's not helping you. But I have no sympathy for the people that knew that and still went forward with that person. That's it.
Very profound and very true, especially as you get older.
Yeah.
The time for stuff your time gets smaller and smaller, but also your patience and threshold should get smaller and smaller. So great. Spot on with that. This, like you said before, this was a tough episode because there's a lot of different angles we can approach.
Yep.
So, I want to thank the listeners out there for we've seen incremental growth over the last 30 days. So thank you to everyone who's listening. Please click like and subscribe to our YouTube page, our Instagram page, our Spotify page, Apple Podcast page, because it helps with the logarithm. It helps get the message out there. And also, I'll say this, and then Greg, I'll let you finish up. If you have a book suggestion for the Mike G Book Club of the Month, feel free to DM us and give us your suggestions. And also visit our friends over at Nine Line Apparel. Half my shirts come from there. Greg T, close us out.
Thank you for all the support. We've been growing exponentially. Thank you for that. And if you're so kind, leave a comment, even if it's hating on me. Bring it on. I love it. And I will respond to it in kind. Thank you for everything.
Yes. If you want to know what Greg benches, put that in the comment.
I don't bench anymore.
If you want to know what Greg squats and deadlifts, leave a comment. If you want to know what Greg's wad of the day is, leave a comment. If you want to ask him how much coffee he's had today, leave a comment.
Cup and a half. That's it.
Oh,
that's it, sir. I know. Anyway.
You can take away certain things, but you ain't taking away my caffeine.
You're not taking away coffee. That's for sure.
Absolutely not. Well, Greggy T, this has been an awesome episode.
Yeah.
To all our listeners out there, please continue to visit our social media stuff. We've got clips of old episodes, so you guys can get caught up on some of the things that we've done during our hiatus. And be engaged. Reach out to us. Like Greg said, leave a comment. Leave us a DM. Give us your feedback. Give us some topics that you'd like discussed.
Yeah.
If you just have a question for either one of us or both of us, drop us a line. We'll respond within 24 hours.
Yep. All good.
From the free state of Florida, from DeSantis land, from the home of Pam Bondi, Pam, keep kicking butt.
All right, everybody.
Sayonara. Buonasera. Arrivederci. Ciao.
Be safe. Be safe, everybody, and be smart, all right? Take care.
God bless.